Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of College Hockey Talk. On today's podcast, I'm joined by a member of the Omaha hockey team, Nolan Sullivan. Welcome to the podcast, Nolan, and thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you for having me on.
Now, at the time of this recording, your team is coming off tough 2 games against Denver. So my first question is, how would you evaluate both games, and how are you going to use both games against Denver as the season goes on, I guess, as motivation for the rest of the second half of the season?
For sure. No, I think it was a good learning opportunity for us. At the end of the day, it was a midweek switch going from North Dakota to Denver, and I thought our coaches did a great job giving us a game plan, and we just did not execute it like we were hoping to, and that's on us to kind of look internally and use as motivation heading into Duluth to just trust in the process, trust in the scouting report, and really just lean into each other and just be a hardworking lunch pail type team.
Yeah, and did the schedule change I guess, did last year kind of like help you a little bit with the schedule change just because, you didn't see that much of it this year in college hockey, but last season there were so many uncertainty regarding the schedule. So I guess did last year's experience kind of help you when the schedule kind of switched up for this month?
For sure, yeah. I think last season, specifically leading into the pod, there are so many delays and just unknowns. We heard different ideas and rumors being talked about as far as getting into the pod, but no, I think that definitely helped us. And at the end of the day, we're just excited to play too. We ran into some penalty troubles in Denver, and that was kind of the big thing that took us out of the games, I would say. But no, at the end of the day, there's a lot of people working hard to make sure we're able to play and play safely. So just having that opportunity to get out and play Denver was just really good for us.
Now, how would you evaluate your team's performance as of now?
Yeah, I think we talked about in the locker room the other day. We want to get hot at the right time, and I think it's coming. We're taking steps in the right direction. But at the end of the day, we got to be hard first and then skill after that. And I think at times we're trying to get a little too cute with our play. And down the stretch here against some of these stronger NCHC teams, we definitely have to get back to our true identity to have the success we're wanting.
Now, obviously, last year your team made the tournament. So my first question is regarding that: is in your view, how has your team improved since last season, and what do you feel like needs to be done to kind of make the tournament for this season?
Yeah, no doubt. I think we've done a great job over the last few years, really recruiting strong classes and getting the right guys in the program first, character-wise. We have a really fun freshman class, and with Brandon McManus joining that as well as a grad transfer. So it's been some fun new pieces being a part of the puzzle. We had to make some tough decisions at the end of last season, just with them adding the COVID rule, so that guys had an extra year. And that forced us to make some hard cuts to some really great players and great friends and great guys. So it's been a long road, I think, to get here and to get where we're at with this group. And so I think for me as a leader on the team, it's just making sure guys don't take it for granted, and just understanding there's a good opportunity for us to make it back to the tournament, but that's fully dependent on how we play each weekend. And you can't let too many weekends slip like we did against Denver, or you're going to find yourself in a tough spot trying to make that tournament.
Now, talk about what it's like playing in the NCHC and just the competition you face every night, just because you can make the argument that's the best conference in college hockey this year.
For sure, yeah, I think it speaks for itself a bit, just having so many teams in the top 10, top 20, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's this thing that even the teams that aren't seen as so-called the best teams or the top 10 teams, they're still going to play you hard, and they're going to beat you if you don't show up and play your best too. So there's no games you can go in and take lightly. Ultimately, we got to focus on ourselves and setting our standard here in Omaha, because we know the competition is going to be strong each and every night. And down the stretch here, it's team after team. So it's exciting. It makes it fun. There's no league I'd rather play in. It's great exposure and great experience to hopefully play at the next level, but it definitely challenges you at the same time to be mentally strong.
Yeah, I think you saw that in the series against Miami, just because for people who might not watch college hockey, they don't see Miami in the top 25, so they might think that's kind of a easy 2 games, but that's clearly not the case because they beat you in one of those games at home. So it just shows you just how strong the conference is, that no matter where they are in the standings, they can beat any team in any given night.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting to look at some of the matchups and see kind of which teams do well against certain styles of play more than anything else. And for us, Miami's been kind of that team where we struggled with, honestly, since I've gotten here as a freshman. So, but then you can look, and we've gone into North Dakota the last few years and had splits with them too. So it's all over the map, and I think that kind of goes for every team in the league. I think certain teams play better against others, and like I said, when you got to get back to your identity and try to just stick with that.
Now you get to play non-conference games this year as well. How's that been for yourself since you didn't get to do that really last year before the tournament started?
For sure. Yeah. I think the pod was great for bonding, but there's nothing like a good road trip with the guys too, and getting out, and especially with some of those younger guys and classes and everything. We get here in the summer. So luckily that's time to kind of start bonding as well. But there's nothing like a good road trip and getting to know guys better, having different roommates, and just all the team meals. You're just constantly together. And so I think a lot of that builds team chemistry. So I know it's something I missed a ton last year, and it's been just awesome kind of getting back on the road and going to a few different spots.
Now, what's been like, I guess, what's the difference in style play between the NCHC versus other teams in other conferences? I'm curious, is it similar or is it kind of different from your perspective?
Yeah, I would say it's different. I think it just depends what league we're talking a bit. You have kind of your Big Ten teams that I think play a high flying, more skilled game, and you get some of your ECAC, which is I'd say more physical play and just hard nosed type teams. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's necessarily one we match up better against, but I do think there's kind of a distinct difference. I'd say defensively, the NCHC can be very, very solid. It can be tough to score 5-on-5 goals. I think you see a lot of the games where special teams kind of take over a bit. So I'd say that's a difference as well.
Now, speaking of improvements, what's been the biggest improvement you've made to your game so far this year?
Yeah, honestly, I would say I've been doing a ton of work on the mental side of the game. The physical part can be tough in training, but at the end of the day, I think kind of keeping yourself mentally strong throughout the year can be challenging, especially for me. Point wise, it can be frustrating at times when bounces don't go your way, or you feel like you can do more for the team. But ultimately, as a leader, I got to be looking out for other guys on my team and not worrying about myself and what I'm doing right or wrong necessarily, but just showing up and being the most consistent guy in the room with attitude, with work ethic, and ultimately serving other guys and making sure, the younger guys are getting adjusted to the culture and being a part of this group. So I would say, yeah, that mental part of my game and just the leadership side, trying to step into a bigger role there now being an upperclassman.
Yeah, no, I feel like the mental side's a part of the game that people don't really realize how important it is. Because in my opinion, when I played hockey, I felt like when I was more confident with the puck, I feel like I was better with the puck. I was more aggressive. I out physicaled guys. I buried those opportunities that I might not have if I didn't have that confidence in my game. I just think that's kind of a part of a game that not many players realize or talk about enough.
For sure, and I think a lot of the guys get to this level, and I don't want to say it's been easy for guys. There's definitely long roads to get to the Division 1 level through juniors and all these different things, like myself. But at the same time, a lot of guys have the skill set that can get here, and then you're always looking for, okay, what's that next step? What's that next advantage that'll hopefully get me to the next level? And I think, like you said, it's one of the sides of the game that gets neglected for sure. But I know when I'm healthy and happy off the ice, I'm kind of playing my best hockey on the ice as well. So taking that time to refresh and really restore your body too is big for me.
Now, what type of leadership have you tried to bring to the team this year? Are you more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of guy?
For sure, I think a little bit of both. I definitely like to talk when it's needed and try to be a vocal guy. But I also respect the fact that I am the assistant. We have Conley to step up and be a talker too. But I think for me, it's the bench energy, trying to make sure guys don't get too high or too low. And then from a practice standpoint, I want to be the guy spending a lot of time at the rink and working my tail off every day to kind of set the standard of what it means to play here in Omaha.
Now, I want to talk about some of the highlights from your team that your team has had so far this year. Now, one of them is when you beat St. Cloud State in overtime on the road. I'll talk about how important that win was for your team, but just how cool it was too, just because St. Cloud State made it all the way to the national championship game last year. So it must have been a huge confidence booster for your team when you won that game this year.
For sure. Like I said before, I think when you get into those conference games, every team you're going to play is is a top team or a strong team. So it's easy to get caught up in the numbers game a bit of where guys are at in the rankings. But at the end of the day, I think our approach to each game stays the same. So yeah, that was a super exciting win. I think it's a hard rank to play on, being the only Olympic rank in the conference there. I think they know how to play it extremely well too. They showed that Friday night. They made us look out of sorts a little bit just with the way they were playing their style of game on their rink. But yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure we had some injuries, some illness, and kind of barely filled a lineup to make that game happen. So to squeeze one and get out of there with a win was big for us for sure.
And you also beat Western Michigan this year. Talk about that win that your team had, just because Western Michigan's obviously a top 5 ranked team in the country this year. And I feel like that's going to be a team you're going to have to face in the postseason if you want to win the NCHC.
For sure. Yeah, they're a strong team this year. I'm good friends with their goalie, Brandon Bussey from Muskegon. And yeah, I had a good chance to talk to him just about where they're at. And it's a fun place to play at the end of the day. It could be pretty easy to get fearful, I guess, going into a spot like that. But I think the team just kind of embraces those challenges, and you have more fun in an environment like that. So at the end of the day, I think for us, when we play to our identity and to our strengths, we know we can beat anybody in the league, and we know when we don't do that, that anybody can beat us too. So yeah, we don't look into it too much as far as who we're playing, where they're ranked, and all that stuff. We're more concerned about what our attitude is, what our mindset is, and what standard we're going to try to play here in Omaha.
Now, for that rink, is the student section I heard is in one side of the rink. It's not behind the net like it normally is for most rinks.
Yeah, no, they wrap around the penalty box, so it's best to stay out of there if you can.
Awesome. Have you ever gotten a penalty at Western Michigan? If you had, any funny chirps you might have heard in the box?
Yeah, I got one freshman year. I want to say I think I got lucky. Not too many chirps, maybe a couple F bombs or something coming my way. But I remember playing tic tac toe at the student section in warm ups, and I think they beat me in that. So that was a bummer. But yeah, it's fun. I think I wish college hockey actually had more of that, and I hope you continue to see that grow as the sport continues to get more and more popular. But it's a very fun environment to go into and play with them constantly, kind of harassing you the whole game.
Yeah, no, I think that's what makes college hockey a little bit better than the NHL in some aspects, because you just don't get that in the NHL, just kind of that fan aspect of the game, where there's student sections and just all these traditions and stuff. So I think that's what makes college hockey so special versus professional hockey, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree.
Now you get to be coached by Coach Gabinet. Talk about what it's like being coached by him and what have you learned under him so far. Just because he seemed, from what I've heard from some of your teammates, he seems like such a great guy and a good coach as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he just loves the game and has a true passion for it at heart. I think he does a lot of time watching NHL hockey too and growing. I know he has a lot of strong accountability, talking to just various NHL coaches and getting their inputs and decisions. And so yeah, I think he's got a lot of right people in his corner. Our assistant coaching staff is great, supporting him, and they just like I said, they do a lot of work to make sure we have the best game plan in order to just put our best foot forward against these teams we're going against, especially in the NCHC. So yeah, they put a lot of sacrifice, a lot of work in. It cannot be an easy job. It definitely takes some time away from the family and whatnot too. So I think he does a great job balancing those two. And ultimately, it's been a blessing to get here to Omaha and just to have that much love and support from those guys. And truly, it doesn't feel like a business. It definitely feels more of like a family culture where we want to see each other do the best they can, and they want to help us grow not only as hockey players but as young men too. Whether it's getting to the next level, but ultimately in life too, when we grow up and have our own families and stuff. So I personally really appreciate that and the understanding that no matter how good you are, the game's going to end for everyone at some point. So I'd rather have a solid group of guys than uh, you know, something other than that.
Now, transitioning, I kind of want to talk about the beginning of your hockey career and work all the way up to where you are now in college. So you're from Minnesota. Talk about growing up there and how'd you start playing hockey?
For sure. Yeah, my dad played with his two brothers. They grew up in Bloomington, Jefferson, so just right by Eden Prairie, where I grew up. All three of him and his brothers played at Providence College. And for me, I was the youngest of three brothers as well, or sorry, two older brothers. But Yeah, when I was younger, I think I was always the goalie in the basement. They needed a shooting target, so a lot of the time I didn't get to be the guy out playing and whatnot. But I definitely looked up to both my brothers. They were the ones that drove me to keep pushing to get better. I think I got to play against a lot of their friends growing up, so I think playing against older guys really helped me and to kind of embrace that challenge. And then I was just really blessed with just a fun group of guys I grew up with too. We were just a tight knit group and really set our hopes on state championship throughout high school. And unfortunately, we didn't end up winning that, but it was just a fun group to grow up with and guys I'm still very close with today.
Who was your favorite player growing up? Was it someone on the Wild, or was it someone who was just in the NHL that didn't play in Minnesota at all?
I really liked Jonathan Tays. I thought he was just a respectable guy on and off the ice and just a strong two-way centerman. So he was a guy I always liked growing up.
You try to model like your captaincy, I guess, from him as well, just because he's probably the most, I guess, respected captain in the NHL.
For sure. Yeah. I think, your play and all that hard work speaks for itself on the ice, but I want to be well known off of the ice for doing the right things as well and helping out, whether it's with the school or the community or just, really using that platform as a Division 1 athlete to gauge that for others and not just have it be so self-centered, but usually really use these 4 years to serve the city of Omaha and just, help people around the league.
Now, before you played juniors, you played in the Minnesota high school hockey scene for Eden Prairie. Just talk about your Minnesota high school hockey experience. What was that like for you? And because just watching the YouTube clips of the state tournament at the XL Center, it seems kind of hard to understand if you're not from Minnesota, just how big the high school hockey scene actually is. Because being from the East Coast, seeing the XL Center be fully packed for a high school hockey game is just kind of unheard of, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a bit surreal. I just remember when I was really young, one of my first memories was scalping a ticket outside for a championship game, and I want to say I paid like $50 or just something insane like that. Probably got ripped off as a 12-year-old, who knows? But yeah, it's pretty nuts. It's definitely something everybody's passionate about in Minnesota, and something for if you're a hockey nut, it's definitely worthwhile going out to check at least once in your lifetime. One of my biggest memories, I think, is from sophomore year. Was the first time I stepped on the ice for warmups and the lights were just super blinding, so I couldn't really see coming out of the tunnel. And when my eyes finally adjusted, I kind of started seeing all the fans were already in the arena for warmups, and I just kept thinking to myself, I'm like, why are all these people here watching me or watching us right now? We're just high school kids trying to live out a dream. Um, but no, there's still great memories. It's incredible how many guys you see from that high school hockey league that end up playing in the NCHC and around the league with some of these other teams. So you run into a lot of familiar faces still. And I know I have a few guys on my team that I joke around with and that we always kind of throw our bets in towards playoff time too. So biggest one with that is Brock Bremer and his Hill Mary Pioneers. Never like to see them have success. So we're always chirping back and forth about that every time March rolls around.
Heard of Dinah's like the New England Patriots of the Minnesota high school hockey scene. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, they're usually pretty consistent.
Now, just doing some research on just Eden Prairie. I heard Casey Middlestat played for Eden Prairie, and is it kind of cool to see someone you grew up with playing the NHL today? I don't know if you knew him or not, but I just thought that was interesting.
For sure. Yeah. Casey was one of my best friends growing up. Actually, we graduated together, and no, it's awesome when you see guys having success. He was one of those rink rats who was constantly working hard and in the backyard and doing the right things growing up. So it's no surprise to me to see the success he's had. And that was an awesome experience too. When he got drafted in Chicago, we drove down with a group of 7 or 8 of us from the high school team and stayed overnight with him, and we're there for the draft day. And so yeah, it's awesome to have a guy, obviously, and it's encouraging to get to talk to him at times and see, all right, like what does that next step look like, and talk to other guys who are playing Division 1 from our high school team too, and just see what their experience is like. So yeah, like I said, I was really fortunate with not only a good group of guys off the ice, but very talented guys on the ice as well.
Now, before you played in the USHL, you played in the North American Hockey League. Talk about your experience there, just because it's not as known as the USHL, but I feel like that's a character league to say the least.
For sure. I think it just helped me grow in maturity. That was once my senior season ended. It was kind of a split second decision. I actually thought I was going to tender with Austin, and it was only an hour away from my house. So we drove there for one of the games, and my dad and I were sitting, and they just happened to be playing Aberdeen that night. And for whatever reason, we just thought the style of play looked similar to my game and thought it would be a good fit. And it's the team I had talked to earlier that fall. So yeah, it ended up being an amazing group of guys. It was really tough, honestly, leaving, even though I was only there for 2 months. It was definitely a spot I was comfortable coming back to if the USHL wouldn't have worked out. But I had just a great roommate and great teammates there that really accepted me, and that allowed me as an 18-year-old to really take a step of maturity and to figure out what it would be like to live away from home. Because I know a lot of kids get to do that at a younger age, but I was just fortunate enough to be able to stay with the guys I grew up with through high school. So yeah, it was definitely a good learning experience.
Now, how did you get the opportunity to go to the USHL and play for Muskegon? Like, is it like a draft? That's what I've heard.
Yep. So it is a draft. It's a bit random. There's so many players that you never really know. Like I think I didn't get drafted my sophomore year, which I thought I would, and then my junior year, I think I got drafted in the 11th round to Chicago. Ended up not making that team, so I got replaced right back into the draft for the next year. Thought I had a good senior season. Ended up going in like the 16th round, like way later than I did my junior year. So it's kind of a whirlwind. And Muskegon wasn't a team I don't even think I talked to prior to the draft. And so it was a bit of a shock. It was probably the furthest team away from my home because there's so many teams in the USHL kind of in the Midwest area that for us, it was like, all right, what am I getting myself into right now? And it was one of the biggest blessings in disguises by far. I had an amazing host family out there. I had two awesome coaches both years. And yeah, honestly, it's that Muskegon's become a second home to me. It's a spot I go out and visit every summer and get to spend at least a week with my host family usually. And to the point where I went on spring break with them last year too. So it's always pretty special when you can go to a new area and only be there for a short period of time, but really have it feel like a second home to you.
Who are some of the players you got to play with at Muskegon that are currently playing D1 college hockey?
Yeah, there's the Del Geiso brothers from UMass. I'd say they're both big names. We had Hakkarainen. He was at Providence for a little bit. Now he's gone. Bobby Lynch. I think Joshua Jager's out at Michigan State. Matt Stoddard's at Minnesota. Honestly, you play with so many guys, and it's definitely a business too with the trades and the market and all that good stuff. So, I've gotten to play with a number of guys throughout my time there.
Did you get to play with Joachim Condley? Because I know he played for Muskegon. I don't know if you got to play with him or not during your time there.
Yep, Condi was there my first year. So I think that was his second year at the time. But yeah, he was a great player, great dude, just a funny guy. It's always fun playing. Muskegon specifically got a ton of guys, a ton of European players as well. So I always really enjoyed that aspect of it too, playing with guys from different countries and just hearing their experiences and their stories of how they got to where they're at.
Yeah, I think that also helps your game as well, just because you get to kind of learn different styles of the game. Just because I think in Europe, the way they play hockey is a little bit different than the way we play hockey here in North America.
No doubt. Yeah, I'd say at one point we had 5 Russians on my team, I think, and they're hardworking. That's it definitely teaches you a few things and teaches you what it takes to get to the next level.
Now, what's the best memory you have with Muskegon?
Muskegon, I would say, gosh, that's a good question. I think the playoff runs are always fun because it's a different animal. I think that's where it feels the most professional as far as the preparation that goes into it and the expectations and how much it means to truly win or lose some of those games. So I think not any specific playoff series, but I think that as a whole. And then besides that, I would probably say my one fight in the the USHL too. I don't think of myself as too big of a fighter. So kind of getting the drop the gloves and just experience that too is I think super fun and something I love showing the video of to friends.
Did you win that fight?
It's a 50-50. I think I don't even know. It was kind of one of those things where you just black out during the fight. And you just start swinging. I think I ended up tripping on the boards, and he fell on top of me. So yeah, let somebody else determine that, I guess.
Do you think fighting should be allowed in college hockey? Because I think it'll be fun. It makes no sense that you can fight in juniors, then college hockey you can't do it, and then you can go to pros and fight again. I just think it's a bit odd. I understand probably because of the whole like visors, but I feel like you can take off the helmets and still throw them down if you have to, just so players can police themselves a little bit more on the ice.
Yeah, I think I it's definitely a tough question. I would agree. I think it's a bit weird that you go from 2 years of playing with a visor where you can't fight to a cage and then back to professionally not having that. So um, yes and no. I think it'd be good. I think you play certain guys or certain teams where it's like, all right, if we were able to fight, I think it would clean some of this up. I think some teams definitely take advantage of that, but um, at the end of the day, I understand too. They're trying to keep it clean and whatnot, but I just think the junior atmosphere as a whole, they do a great job promoting the hockey with different things in between periods and all that good stuff. So I definitely think there's some nuggets there that um, college hockey can take from to increase the popularity of the sport and to get more fan attendance.
Now, how did the USHL help prepare you for Omaha?
Yeah, I think for me, it was just taking those 2 years to really mature, not only as a player but as a person. That was the first time I was living with a new family and out on my own. And being in Michigan, it was about a 10-hour drive, so it wasn't like you could get an off weekend and go home. Like you only came home maybe a week or two out of the year. Um, so yeah, I think that was big, just growing up as a person, but also I think skating wise, I think there's a lot of good skaters. I think I was a little slower coming out. I played football in high school, so I had more of the bulky build and was used to the weight room, so that was no problem getting adjusted to. But I think my speed specifically was something I had to increase in order to play at that level, and it definitely took some time. But once I found the groove of it, I think I was able to find some success.
Now, talk about your recruitment process for a little bit. What made you want to go to Omaha versus other schools you might have looked at the time?
For sure, I think it was definitely my best hockey offer for sure. I first talked to the old coaching staff actually my sophomore year in high school, and it was a little flaky on and off. And then it was my senior year that Coach Dave Noel Bernier reached out to me and said he was just looking forward to building a relationship, that he had the notes from the old assistant there. And I kind of told him, because at that point I was talking to West Point and St. Lawrence, and I was like, I got to give these teams a response here soon. I don't want to keep them waiting. And so he ended up coming out to watch me in Muskegon's main camp, and it just ended up being just a strong weekend personally, and they offered me based on that. Um, and so I really enjoyed West Point. Actually, I thought for sure I was going to go out there after my visit. I really enjoyed that. It was kind of my style as far as the military aspect in the school. I thought I'd really enjoy that experience and that discipline factor. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest thing that drew me to Omaha was the coaching staff, and then just the culture they're starting to build. I think it'd be cool to be a part of something like I have been these last few years, where it was kind of the building blocks each year, where each year continues to grow and get better and better. So I think that's a pretty special experience that I've gotten to be a part of here in Omaha. And I just don't want to take it for granted. You know, it does go by fast. I was just talking with Martin Sundberg, one of the fifth years on our team, and he was just saying, man, like, how lucky are we? Like, don't you don't realize you only have a few more semesters, and it just all goes by so fast. So just trying to take it all in while I can.
Yeah, I bet you like some of your former teammates that don't play college hockey anymore kind of miss it, just because it goes by that quickly.
Yeah, no doubt. I honestly just read a book on that, and it touched a little bit on the retirement process and what that looks like. And it's the first time I kind of had to take a step back and go, huh, like this does end for sure. And
Mhm.
at that time, I think there's so many people who can get their identity tied up in only being a hockey player. And that's why I think I'm so big on some of those things outside of the rink. Like, who are you as a person? What's your character truly like? Because hockey ultimately is going to help you be successful in life, because it's gonna end for everybody down the road at some point, no matter how good you are.
Now, what was the biggest adjustment you had to make to college hockey? Was it kind of the speed of the game, or kind of I guess, the decision making, since you're making quicker decisions with the puck, more than you were in juniors, I guess?
Yeah, I think once again, it was a little bit of the skating piece for me, um, getting comfortable with the speed. I think with college, it was more just having confidence in myself. I'd never been injured before, and I ended up getting a high ankle sprain about a month before the season started. So I think mentally, I had to take that as a challenge and take it for what it was. And I had to earn my way into the lineup at the end of the day. That's kind of what Coach Gabinet told all of us coming into it, is that it doesn't matter what year you are here necessarily. It's more who's going to work hard and who's going to earn the spot. So I knew I'd be able to outwork guys. That's kind of my MO of why I've had success or why I've gotten to where I'm at. I've never been the most skilled guy on the teams. I've always played a role. So for me, it's like, all right, what can I be good at today? And I think freshman year that started off as being strong defensively, being good on face-offs, on the penalty kill, and that's kind of what got me into the lineup. And I've been able to stick there and have success by just kind of playing a strong role for our team.
Now, talk about your freshman year. What was that season like for you?
Yeah, it was really good. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten from a coach was my assistant coach called me in. He goes, "Nolan, you're a B plus player with A plus trustability." And I go, I can take that, I think, and work with it. So yeah, I think, like I just kind of said and mentioned, for me, it was, all right, what am I going to do to separate myself from some of these guys on the team? What's going to make me different from being in the lineup? And so I put a lot of focus in on just being strong on faceoffs, taking care of the D zone first. And I think ultimately that's what brought me success offensively too. My freshman year, I would just try to go to the net, play hard, and do the right things and get off the ice. So yeah, it was a good experience. I think we had good leadership that year too, good older guys. And yeah, I think it was just a good time to come in. We had 12 freshmen, so there's a lot of opportunity to try to outcompete and outwork guys.
Now, your team. Talk about last year for a little bit, playing in the middle of a pandemic. What challenges did your team face, and how did you kind of overcome those challenges? And how did those challenges you faced last year help shape you as a hockey player today?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think if you talk to 10 different guys, you're going to get 10 different responses. I know a lot of guys really enjoyed the pod, and I'm not going to say I didn't enjoy it, but at the same time, you play um, and really feed off fan energy too. So for me, it was really tough to be like, all right, like, why do I love what I do? Like, what's going to be my motivation here without fans in the stands? And that was something I struggled with mentally. I didn't think I was consistent enough last year. I thought there was times where I just was almost disinterested or just struggled. And it's you read about it too in the NHL, where there were certain guys even this year where they threatened to have no fans. And they're like, we don't even want to play if that's going to be the case. So it's interesting to know you're not alone kind of in those thoughts too, and hear it from not only college guys, but from NHL guys, who it's like, yeah, we love this game, we love what we do, but we do love the crowd and really appreciate the support from everybody. So I think it just helped me to not take it for granted this year, to really embrace the moment and embrace the fans and to do those extra things in the community, to give back and to spend some extra time in the lobby signing autographs or just talking to people. And yeah, I think it was a cool experience last year, no doubt, but it was it was mentally draining. I would say by the end of it, I was ready to take a break and take some time off to really refresh.
Yeah, I think a lot of NHL players hated that like bubble they had to play in for the playoffs a couple years ago, where it was in like Edmonton and Toronto, just because it was just so different. But also being like in a hotel room, not being able to really interact with the general public was just very challenging on those players mentally.
Yeah, no doubt. I think when you throw the family factor into it as well, um, it's one thing to be in college and to have no responsibilities outside the rink besides getting your homework done, but it's a whole nother animal when you've got kids at home and a wife to take care of and all that good stuff. So I can imagine it'd be extremely frustrating or challenging for some of those guys spending months in there at a time.
Now, was it easier for you that the pod was in Omaha versus if it was in like Duluth or somewhere else?
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest things, we actually ended up with great weather in the month of December. And so we were kind of forced to walk to the rink every day, but it ended up being beautiful out. I know we playing football outside in about 50-degree weather and really enjoying ourselves. So I think the fact that you could get out of the hotel and go walk around is really good for the mental health of many guys. And yeah, I think it kept me sane too. At the end of the day, it was only 3 weeks. It wasn't too long by any means, but I'm also a guy who, when we have an off day, I really get out and like to do, whether it's a different activity or a different sport. I like to do a lot of other things outside of the rink to kind of hit that reset button. And I know being in there and playing 10 games in 21 days, there wasn't really that opportunity to get away from it, especially trying to balance finals week on top of it.
Now, your team made the tournament last year. Talk about that experience playing in the national tournament, even though the game really did not go your team's way as all. Minnesota kind of dominated that entire game.
Yeah, no doubt. I think it was a very cool opportunity. I know we were excited. We thought we earned the chance to get in there for sure. Um, yeah, I think the biggest memory for me was when we kind of got announced. We were all at a movie theater and saw our name get thrown up on the board, and I think it was a step in the right direction. And so even though it didn't go our way, like you're saying, it's hard to look at it as a negative by any means. It was definitely a step in the right direction for this program, this coaching staff, and not really losing any guys, but returning everybody and picking up some strong freshmen and the transfer. It's I think for us, it's maybe just more of an incentive to get back there. We've experienced it. We kind of know what to expect now. And I think we're looking forward to really making a strong push here at the end of the season to try to get ourselves back in a place to be in that tournament again.
Yeah, is that your goal for the rest of the season, is just to get back to the tournament and win the NCHC?
Yeah, no doubt. I think you got to take it one step at a time. I think for us, we're really a day-to-day team. Like, we don't want to look too far ahead. We honestly don't talk too far ahead. We really talk about what's tangible, what's right in front of us, and know that daily process is also ultimately what's going to bring us success down the road when we get that chance. Um, but yeah, no, we're talking about goals. I mean, at the end of the day, I think the tournament format's very interesting. Like, when you get in, it doesn't matter where you're at. You can be a 1 seed, you can be a 16. Like, it does not matter. Once you're in, you win 2 games, you get hot at the right time, you're in the Frozen Four. Like, it's anybody's ball game. Um, and so I think for us, we almost played our best hockey in the pod last year. And I think right now we haven't been playing our best hockey, which honestly don't see as a negative as long as we keep taking steps in the right direction. I think we're going to get hot at the right time and be a dangerous team down the stretch.
Oh, yeah, you saw that a couple years ago when St. Cloud State, I believe, lost to Air Force, who was a 16 seed. So anything's possible in the national tournament. Once you just have to get in, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, I want to ask you about some of your teammates. One of the teammates you get to play with is Taylor Ward. He's one of the best goal scorers in the NCHC. What's it like being his teammate on and off the ice?
Yeah, I think it's very natural for him. You can tell he's got just that gifted goal scoring ability too, but that obviously doesn't come without hard work and consistency too, and just how he approaches the game each day. And yeah, he's been a guy I've got to sit next to in the locker room too, so I like to pick his brain on some stuff and just check in with him. He's been an assistant captain with me now for 2 years, and so having that leadership perspective as well, I think he brings a lot of creative ideas, different ideas than what some of the other captains think of too. And that's what's been probably the most fun thing about being on this leadership core is I think all 4 of us think pretty differently at times, and ultimately, I think we have impact with different guys on the team, and I think that's brought us a lot of success. And for him, he's been great this year. I think he's been very consistent. And he leads on the ice very, very well.
Now, you also get to play with one of the best goalies in college hockey, and Isaiah Zafil. What's it like being his teammate? Because I had him on the podcast a few months ago, and he was just such a great guy. But I feel like he's just such an underrated goalie in the NCHC. I love watching him play, especially since he's a lefty. You don't really see that too often as well.
Yeah, no doubt. No, Isaiah is one of my best friends on the team. I've had the chance to live with him the last uh, 2 previous years, and no, he's he's the man. He's a great guy. He's always in a good bubbly mood and brings a lot of strong energy to the group. And I think consistently in practice, he's very strong as well. You don't see him with too many off days, and that shows up on the weekends. I think he's had 5 goalie of the weeks or something crazy like that for the NCHC already. So, um, no, he's a guy I love hanging out with and spending a lot of time with outside of the rink as well. And yeah, I'm very excited for what his future is going to look like, and for Taylor Ward's too. I think they have a lot of upside, and Vegas is very lucky to have a guy like Isaiah coming into their organization.
So we're now in a segment I like to call the non-hockey segment, where I ask you some non-hockey questions just to get to know you a little bit more off the ice. So my first one is, if you could have lunch with anyone in the world, who would it be and why?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Madison Pruitt from The Bachelor because she's beautiful, and I think it'd be a good little date session.
Now, would you join if she was like the Bachelorette one season? Would you try to join the show to become like the next Bachelor? That'd be pretty cool. I would definitely vote for you if that's how the competition works.
Yeah, I think it'd be worthwhile throwing my name in the hat and trying to get on there.
Now, I've never seen The Bachelor, but I know you have to do like kind of a cool entrance when you get in the show. Would yours be like hockey related, I assume?
That's a good question. I guess I have not thought about it too deeply yet, but I suppose probably stick with what I'm best with. So maybe something hockey related.
Awesome, awesome. Well, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself and why?
You know what? Since we talked about him, I'm going to go with Isaiah Seville. He's got good energy, and he's constantly he's the bubbly guy. So I think I'd want him to represent me in a movie.
Now, speaking of teammates, who's the funniest teammate at Omaha?
Joey Abate by far.
Who has the best style on the team besides yourself?
I'll go with Jimmy Glenn, my roommate, and I will give him full credit because he's got way better style than me. So I like the dad style. I like to keep it simple and comfy.
Now, if you could choose any teammate to cook a meal for you, which teammate would you pick?
Austin Road, and he keeps it healthy, but he's got some talent in the kitchen too.
Now, what music do you like to listen to on a general basis or like before a game?
I'm a big country guy all the time. So yeah, anytime country.
Now, last non-hockey question is, what is your guilty pleasure song?
Ooh. Justin Moore, I could kick your ass is a big one for me and a couple guys on the team.
Now, back to some hockey questions now. First one is, what advice would you give a younger player who's trying to pursue a career in D1 college hockey?
Yeah, I would just say work as hard as you can, but don't put your identity fully in hockey. There's so many things. There's guys who have expectations to go to the next level, who have great starts to college hockey, and with injuries and different things, like it doesn't always go the way you plan it out to be. So set the goals, work as hard as you can at them. But at the end of the day, make sure your purpose is in hockey. Like for me, just being a Christian, like my faith is that big thing for me and what really drives me and gives me purpose. So yeah, that might not be for everyone, but at the same time, I think I've seen a lot of guys crumble too from trying to put their identity fully in hockey and have it not work out the way they're hoping it would.
Now, do you have any shout outs you want to give? I know we mentioned a few of your teammates in this interview, but if there's anyone we forgot to mention, feel free to shout them out now. Any family members, former teammates, feel free to shout them out now.
For sure. I just got to give my aunts a couple shout outs, Auntie Barb and Auntie Emery. They're huge fan supports, and I love watching the games and all that good stuff. So shout out to them.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Nolan. I really appreciate it. I also want to say great goal against St. Lawrence. I love the spinorama move. I thought that was pretty sick, but I appreciate your time. It means a lot to myself, and I wish you nothing but the best for the rest of the season, and you're going to do great with Omaha.
Absolutely. No, thank you for having me on today.
Now, one question I just want to ask you, and I